Alright, I know people really enjoy when I review Stephen King films. I've talked about doing like a Stephen King Saturday, but as I said, I can't make that commitment. But I do like randomly reviewing them here and there. And I got this Blu-ray at Walmart for $12.96, I want to say, when I saw that the Scream Factory edition was there, and I hadn't seen the movie in forever for that cheap. I couldn't resist, so I picked it up. As usual, I'm extremely well prepared, and I don't even know where the hell my notes are for it. I watched this about a week ago. I've been so busy, I have literally had no time to record, and I have like 10 films to review in a row right now. So, here, Firestarter. All right, so we've got Drew Barrymore, Heather Locklear, George C. Scott, Martin Sheen. We got one hell of a cast here. We got music by Tangerine Dream, who the music in this is quite good. I haven't watched this in like a week, and I know somewhere in my notes I put the music down that it reminded me of, I think. And so when I find that, I can say it. I swear I compared it to something. Or am I confusing that with something else? I don't know. We'll get to it. But the Tangerine Dream music I do remember being very good. I did like that a lot. This movie actually kind of reminded me of some like Italian cinema at times. Like I feel like if this was an Argento film or something, in the late 70s with the premise and everything, and the way that it's shot and the way that the music plays, and you just threw some more like neon colors in here and close-ups, it would very much match that feel and that tone. So I quite like that about it. The story itself is pretty like in the movie. Now I have not read this book, but in the film, it just feels, I don't know, a little hollow in a way. Like, it just feels very basic. Like, they created somebody who has this power. They're trying to get them back, and they want to use that power for themselves. And they can't contain them, and they go ballistic and kill everyone. The end. Like, there really isn't much more to the film than that. It just is. It's just kind of beat after beat, very obvious stuff here. So for that, I feel like the film doesn't have a ton of rewatchability. Like, I like the film, but at the same time, I don't feel like there's much depth here, and the characters themselves are fine. I feel like George C. Scott's character is by far the most interesting character in this. Because of his relationship with Charlie that he creates, and like how he can be that friendly but also that evil and conniving is just very very interesting and very well played by George C. Scott here, because he goes from a total prick to like this very sweet and endearing man, and he seems to be able to switch between both of those very easily, as be an actor or be the actual character within the movie. So yeah, real, a lot of credit to him, and it's George C. Scott, so what do you expect? Great actor. They were lucky to have him. Now, this is Drew Barrymore at, one of her earlier roles, and she's good. She's fine in it. She's as good as most kid actors would ever be. So yeah, I like her in this. Locklear is not in this a whole bunch. Martin Sheen is definitely a good little sleaze bag. And yeah, so we got the opening here where the dad in this makes this taxi driver drive forever and only gives him $1 bill. So this totally screws this guy. He's definitely not, not only does he get into his brain and control him, which is just wrong, because this guy didn't do anything. Now, I get it. They're trying to say, he's trying to save his daughter. He'll go to any lengths. I'm not giving the guy shit. I just have to look at it from a morality standpoint for fun. But giving this guy $1 to drive that far is kind of fucked up. But you got to do what you got to do, right? And I guess it's better than him being like, get out of the car, let me have your car, and then stealing his car. I mean, the guy's only really out gas and maybe a couple fares. So, yeah, he probably did better. And yeah, the whole science experiment goes wrong. We of course have seen this many times. So there's nothing new there. But when they're in that like experimental facility and they're all like basically lab rats for these, there's like people who really do this shit. It's just crazy to me. Like I would never do that. Like, we go down there for human trials. Would you be one of those people? Have you been? Is anybody here done any of that? Like when they were in college and they needed a little extra cash, so they went down and they like had shit tested on them. Dude, no way would I be that person. Not in a million years. But they do need some people to do that, I guess. So, I mean, I'm glad they exist, but sure shit ain't finding my ass in there. But like when they're in there and then like some of them just start like bleeding out and are screaming in agony. Jesus, man. That I mean, that's worst case scenario by far. That's terrifying. It's probably the scariest part of this movie for sure. And the love between Locklear and the dad in this feels very forced to me. I don't buy their romance or their like interest in each other at all. Like when he starts talking to her in the bed next to her, I'm not buying it. And the one of the henchmen in this is Dick Warlock, obviously Michael Myers from Halloween 2, and if Halloween 3 is one of the henchmen as well. But yeah, I love seeing him here. I love seeing him. I love that he even has a few lines. So really cool to see Dick Warlock. And the prick at the airport who's like being a shithead to his girlfriend or whatever this girl is that he was banging, and then he was like, you know, she's like, you told me you loved me and this and that, and she's pregnant, and he's just being like very dismissive and like, fucking, how do I even know it's mine, and fuck off, I don't even like you, and all. Bro, don't be one of these guys. Don't ever be one of these guys. You're a fucking piece of shit. And I wish Charlie would have burned this guy to death. He got off way too light. Way too light. Just having his boots caught on fire and he had to put him out in a toilet. Dude, this of all the guys that should have been put ablaze in this film, this guy is very high on that list. Like, now, of course, there's two sides to every story. Who knows? Maybe this girl really is a lunatic and has been following around. So maybe that is, but I don't buy that at all. Not the way that this is played out. This guy has clearly just wanted to get laid. Now it's like the girl's responsibility to have the kid, and he wants nothing to do with her or the kid, and he's like being really mean about it and getting rid of it. Dude. For me, like, people can be like, oh, well, I was young and this and that. No. That excuse only extends so far for me. You can only use that, like, I was young excuse for, like, a certain range of things. There's like a level you can hit with that excuse, and then anything beyond that excuse, like anything above that level, to me, that excuse is like null and void. Like, no. Like, that's just like a character thing. Like, that's part of your character. And anybody who would do that to a young girl like that is a horrible person and is never going to change. Like, I'm very firm on this. Like, there's just, I don't know, there's some parts of your morality, there's some parts of, like, you know, who you are as a character. I just feel like they're part of you. Again, there's no changing that. Like, you can change elements about yourself. People don't ever change or this and that. You know, people can change to a degree. But there's things at your core. Like this guy. What he's saying to me. I just don't... maybe I'd love to be wrong. But these kinds of people are never good. They're just not. Prove me wrong. Prove me wrong. I'm fine with that. I want to be wrong on that. I want to know. I want to think that shitty people can become better people, but all those people who were bullies in high school, I've said this on the channel a bunch of times, but all those people who were like horrible bullies in high school, they're pieces of shit still to this day. I guarantee it. 100% guarantee it. Prove me wrong. Anyway, but that guy at the airport, oh, I wanted to knock his fucking ass out so bad. And then let Charlie burn his ass alive. I do like the father-daughter relationship in this, even though I don't like the husband and wife relationship dynamic and the romance there. I do like the dad and the daughter stuff here when we do get it. I think it is believable enough, so I like it. Imagine having a kid with superpowers. I think about this anytime I watch movies that feature kids with superpowers, whether it be The Incredibles or Raising Dion or whatever. Doesn't matter. Any of those movies just terrified. Like my kids getting angry at me, or and then they have like the ability to throw, or fucking Brightburn, have the ability to like pick my car up and throw it at me, or throw it through the house, or like fly off, or use laser vision on me, or something. Like it's terrifying to think about your children who have no ability to regulate their emotions, giving them superpowers, giving them the ability of like telekinesis and being able to burn shit to the ground. That's woo. Talk about scary, man. And now the dad's powers in this movie seem to be killing him. Like they're creating little hemorrhages in his brain and such. But Charlie's powers don't seem to be hurting her at all. Maybe because she was born with it. And maybe because he's that like first generation, and his body wasn't meant to be that way, but because she was born with those powers, her body is better at acclimating itself, or just that's the way it is. Makes sense. I don't have much of an issue with that, but it's more pointing it out. And now the dad uses this power on one of these like henchmen, and he's like, "You're blind," and the guy's like, "I'm blind," and he's like, "You're blind too." Are they really blind, or do they just think they're blind? How long before that thing wears off? Will it ever wear off? And will it be a mental thing? Can like a psychiatrist go in there and break it and be like, doctor will examine their eyes and be like, "Your eyes are fine. Like you should be able to see," and they're like, "No, I can't see. So that's got to be a mental thing. So could that be broken? I don't know. It's interesting. And the dad and the daughter here are very good at telling lies. Like they're very specific about how they lie. They create all these small little details. They're very good con artists here when they're lying to this old couple. Love the old couple in this. Love the old man. Great character. The acting in this movie overall, besides a couple people, feels very forced. Very forced. But that's what also adds to that kind of Italian cinema feel, like I was talking about, with the music, the acting, all that. Feels kind of like that. Charlie cooks one dude alive, man. She just burns this dude, like the first dude that comes. And she just like wrecks almost everybody who shows up, which is great. And I like that the old couple doesn't die. They actually end up living through the whole film. Typically, when they like house these people, they always lose their lives. But these guys actually make it. One of them gets shot, but outside of that, he's fine. And George C. Scott comes in and he fucking karate chops that guy's nose while he's sleeping. Kind of reminded me of Halloween 3. Speaking of Dick Warlock, he grabs the guy's nose and cracks it. But yeah, I just boom. I like that, even though it's clearly like a doll. Doesn't matter. It's still fun. And Scott uses a very odd line here, where he's talking about Drew Barrymore or Charlie, and he's like, "She's very beautiful and very young, and I want to get inside of her." Like, I get it. Some like old people don't realize what they're saying is taken taken wrong, taken out of context. It can be like, "Huh? What'd you just say?" But bro, like this line, I don't know. This seems like a very weird line to put in the movie. Did he have some kind of like sexual desires for this little girl? I mean, I don't think that's ever implied in the film, but when he says that, it's very weird. That's a very weird arrangement of words that a script writer would put together and be like, "Oh, he's just an old guy." It's not what he meant. She's very beautiful, very young, and I want to be inside of her. I don't even know what to say about that line. That was just like, whoa, wait, what? And I don't really understand how it took like George C. Scott's character to come up with the idea of tranquilizing these people from a distance before they're seen. It really took like a special forces guy to come in, like they had to hire somebody else. Be like, can you come up with something else? And he's like, you know what? Instead of like approaching them and showing them that we're here and allowing these superheroes to fucking hurt us, how about we just shoot them from a distance and be done with it? Oh, what a genius. Seriously? Nobody on the payroll came up with that idea? Wow. You guys hire some morons. And yeah, so he manipulates the hell out of Charlie here. The shit he does, the shit he says is so manipulative. Why does Charlie's hair blow in the wind when she's conjuring her powers? Is that like the heat radiating back and like blowing her hair back? Why doesn't her hair melt then? Is her hair fire resistant? Is Charlie fire resistant? This is a question that I'm very curious on. She's definitely heat, like she's definitely impervious to high heat levels, because she's turning the room like 600, 700 degrees in the movie, and she's fine. So if you tried to like light Charlie on fire, would she be fine? This I'm very curious about. I'm sure this is explored in the book, but in the film, I don't see it to be explored at all, and it should be. I think maybe it's just something we're supposed to surmise for ourselves, but I don't know. And I like that she like kind of has to back her powers off onto something, so she has to have like water in the room to put her powers into. That's interesting. And tells dude to jump, big mistake. Oh yeah, so the dad in this has George C. Scott. He uses his powers and he tells him to jump off the ledge, which is only like one story. And then the dad, George C. Scott just grabs his gun and shoots the dad. Like, duh. Why didn't you just tell him to take the gun in his hand and blow his own head off? Like, jump? Really? Jump? Like, from fucking 10 feet up? Did you really think that was going to have some horrible effect on this guy? I mean, Charlie dispatches of him very quickly after, but I just think you could have came up with something better than jump. Like, if he was on top of, like, a 10-story building, maybe. But it's just kind of funny. Like, hey, you're in a barn. Hey, how about you jump to the ground? Like, take the gun in your hand and blow your head off. And you clearly don't have any problem killing these people, so I don't understand that, but it is what it is. You can see the wires in this movie so clearly when, like, Charlie's using her Ken and Ryu fire freaking bombs. They're, Hadouken! Whatever the hell those things are called. The wires in this that's traveling across are so bad and so obvious. It made me laugh throughout. I like that when they try to fire at her, to fire their guns, the bullets melt and, like explode as they're coming at her. That's awesome. I love that idea. That makes perfect sense to me. She has like flame paths that like split off and go into 3 different directions heading towards people. That's great. Bodies just go flying when they're hit. That's great. Love that shit. One right into a tree. Very, very cool. And then yeah, the couple ends up taking her in, which is cool. And they take her to the paper at the end, which of course the paper is going to sit there and be like, yeah, okay, little girl, bye-bye. But they make it seem like they'd definitely be listening to her. Although, to be honest, I mean, it wouldn't be very hard to convince these people she's telling the truth. I mean, all she'd have to do is use a little magic there, right? She'd just have to like, light something on fire in the room, and they'd be like, okay, I believe you. Especially since she burned down this entire freaking place, and she'd walk in there and be like, hey, you know this real famous place called, like, what the hell is the place called? The something, whatever it's called. yeah, I mean, it just burned to the ground with a bunch of like, high named, high profile people. So they definitely be apt to listen to her once she started burning everything in the room. But yeah, the film's just, I don't know. It's okay. It kind of feels like Carrie in a way, but Carrie's better. It just has better style, better acting, better characters, like of Stephen King's stuff, like of the two, where his characters can use. Maybe Charlie grows up to be Carrie White. There you go. I don't know. This is fine. Not something I would rush back to watching again. In fact, at the moment right now, I have really no interest in watching it again. They did make a Firestarter 2 rekindled, and I actually do own it in my collection, so maybe I'll cover that at some point. But for now, we'll keep it here, and I got a lot more movies to review. But yeah, this one's okay. What do you guys think? Let me know. And that music I was thinking of earlier that the movie's like, I never found it in my notes, so I didn't forget about it. I kept looking for it in the notes, and I never found it. So I think I'm confusing it with the one movie where I said the music sounded like Big Trouble in Little China. But this one, I'm sure if I listened to it, I could tell you something it sounds like. But what do you think? When you listen to the music in this, what do you think it sounds like? Let me know. Adios.